Nordic Tales and American Trails is an outdoor and hunting podcast focusing on tales and trails from Northern Europe and the USA, hosted by Erik Rhodin from Sweden and Adam Wu from Louisiana. The podcast covers all aspects of the outdoors, with a special emphasis of hunting with dogs. We will explore the unique tales and trails of our region, the various dog breeds used in hunting, and the differences in hunting practices between the USA and Northern Europe.
So good morning, or good evening, wherever you are at in this world. This is Adam Wu. I'm here sitting along with my friend
Erik Rhodin, shipping in from Sweden.
Yes, sir. And I'm obviously from America. But so Erik, how let's tell me a little bit about yourself and let everyone know kind of what you do, your hunting styles, or...
Yeah, so I'm Erik Rhodin from middle of Sweden. I live on a little farm here with my girlfriend and currently 4 hunting dogs and a little companion dog. I'm mainly focusing on hunting big games here in Sweden, so that would entail moose and wild boar mainly. I do run currently 3 Russian European Lycas, and I have a 7-month-old West Siberian Lyca that is getting along nicely. Currently it's a bit too warm and humid here for both me and the dogs, but we're getting closer to the hunting season here, so it feels great.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm getting the itch, man. I'm getting the itch as well.
Yeah, it's like it's starting to cool down on the evenings now, and you feel, at least here, it's getting darker and darker, and you can feel that the autumn here and the dog season is getting close by. But so Adam, tell me a little bit about yourself and what dogs you currently have.
Yeah. So I'm down here in South Louisiana. So the heat is kind of crazy, especially at this time of the year. But I'm hunting. We have a wide array of dogs that we're using between my partner and I. But personally, I just have the one West Siberian Lyca that I'm focusing on. He's 2 right now. He's going on 3, and he's doing very well. I use him for wild boar, but all my life I've used West Siberian Lycas. But this is the first time I'm actually using them to bait wild boar. Previous to this was all tree and game, squirrel, raccoon, and I have 2 older ones that kind of I partner up with a buddy of mine, and and that's it, man. That's my current focus is my young one, and moving forward this season, I'm gonna just 90% of my focus is gonna be on wild boar, but still we hunt. We have rabbit dogs, we have squirrel dogs. We do a little bit of everything, man.
Yeah, sounds amazing. So in America, I know that West Siberian Lycas, or Lycas in general, isn't that much of a common breed. Over here in especially Northern Europe, most of the Spitz breeds are common. Some of the Lycas are a little bit numbers, but we have at least 9 or 11 different Spitz breeds that we're hunting different games with. So why and how did you come by to use Lycas over in America?
Yeah, so there was an old forum we used to have called Squirrel Dog Central, and it was just a forum for everybody who used all kind of different breeds, because over here the common breeds for squirrel dogs are your tree and feist, your mountain curs, an occasional hound mixed in there every now and again. But I remember when I first seen the Lycas on the page, there was just some pictures of them, and I have a obsession with wolves, man. I love them, and just their appearance had stricken me. And a couple years gone by, and I had an old buddy of mine down here in Santa Monica, Louisiana, and he just so happened to come across one. He got it from Arkansas. He ended up getting it because the dog was hunting too far from the previous owners, and he's a pretty well-known trainer, so they wanted him to bring it in hunting closer. Well, long story short, he ended up keeping the dog. Didn't like him because he didn't necessarily get along with other dogs. That's one thing that we're not really accustomed to, because these Lycas tend to be, they have to know the even the people, but also the other dogs that they're hunting with really well to get along. And he didn't like that aspect of him, so then it got into my hands. And when I tell you, he was the most natural hunting dog I think I've ever owned. And ever since then, I've just been obsessed with them. And I've gone to other breeds, gone back to other breeds because I've had them my whole life. But every time I hunt another dog, it's just like I feel like I'm missing these certain aspects that the Lycas have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Like, so for me, I went to America here a few months back, and that's partially the reason where we're starting this podcast, because our hunting practices is so much different. Even though like we don't have the same game, obviously, but some of the games are similar. Like you have more squirrels, and we would chase martens instead with the Lycas and all that. But like the Spitz breeds, it's like, without getting into too much detail about the Lycas in general, like they're a very, very old breed, and they have some traits that like naturally developed. That's amazing to see as a hunter. Like a lot of the times, for myself included, like I'm learning as much from hunting with a dog from the dog than I'm trying to teach the dog. Like there's no way to really teach or trigger a Leica to hunt the way you want. It will hunt for you, but it will also hunt with you. And that's something that is so amazing to see. And for me, I basically stumbled upon my first Russian European Leica. Basically, he got hurt bad by a wild boar when he was young, less than a year old. So the previous owner didn't feel that he was gonna wanna keep hunting wild boars. And at the time, I was basically only hunting moose. So I agreed with him to basically try him on the moose. And since that day, I got stuck, man. So I got down to now having 3 Russian European Leicas, and they're all similar bloodlines, which is amazing. And now after I went to America, I had to get a West Siberian Leica as well. And the downside with the Russian European Leicas, at least here, is that they're so few in numbers. So basically all dogs here is related to each other, so it's very hard to keep breeding.
I was curious about that because obviously I think the only Leica, I know of one other Leica breed that is here besides the West Siberian Leica, which is the East, and I only know of one. So that's why I was curious. The numbers wise between the East Siberian Leica, West Siberian Leica, Karelo, Finnish Spitz, and the Russo European Leica, the ones you have.
Yeah, so I think I would say, if we're talking Sweden, Norway, and also a bit in Finland, so you would say that there's 4, or most people would say there's 3 Leica breeds, and then you also have what you mentioned there, the Finnish Spitz, which would be Finnish Leica. So technically you could argue that there would be 4 breeds that qualify under the Leicas that are strictly used for hunting. There are, without trying to step on any toes, there are other Leica breeds out there. So like, not trying to say these are the only 4 ones that exist. There are other Leicas out there. But in Sweden, Norway, and Finland, like you would have Eastern European Leica, which would be at the top in the numbers wise, and then it would be followed by West Siberian Leica, and then Finnish Spitz or Finnish Leica, and then at the bottom end it would be Russian European Leica. I think, without checking the numbers, when it comes to Russian European Leicas, I think we're 80 to 100 dogs in total, and most of them are from the same bloodlines. And now with the conflict going over east, without getting into too much politics, like getting new dogs in is basically, if not impossible, a very big struggle. And you also mentioned the Karelian bear dog. So like hunting wise, if we go with Northern Europe, you would have 9 breeds that qualifies under the moose dog companion, which would be then Swedish moose dog or Swedish elkhound. And the whole elkhound topic is something we're gonna have to dive into one of these days, because I'm not sure why a moose dog got turned into elkhound. It's not even a hound, so that's something we're gonna have to look into.
It's not even a hound, and elk's not even a moose.
Yeah, exactly, and that's an amazing debate and topic we're gonna have to dive into. And it's So it would be from the top. The most number-wise would be Swedish Moose Dog, and then it would be followed by Norwegian Moose Dog, the gray one. You also have Norwegian Moose Dog that are black, and they're mainly used in line, so you don't free ranged with that breed at all. And then you have the Karelian Bear Dog, which is very closely related to the Russian European Laika. And then you have the three Laika breeds, which would be East Siberian, West Siberian, and Russian European. And then you would have White Swedish Moose Dog, and you would have Helleforsare, which I actually don't think there is an English term for it. I think it would be like it's based on the Norwegian Moose Dogs, but over the years it has definitely developed into its own breed. So you would have 9 breeds that is under the Moose Dog club here in Sweden and Norway and Finland. And then you would have the Finnish Spitz or the Finnish Laika with the Norrbotten Spitz would be under Forest Bird dogs.
And from my understanding, the way it's categorized over there, your Spitz type dogs are the ones that are primarily used for baying, right? Those are the ones that are actually considered baying type dogs.
Yeah, so they would all be considered baying type dogs. And that's like what's fun or for me enjoyable with the like is that I can bay anything from a capercaillie to a wild boar or a moose or a marten. Now, my dogs will also bay a squirrel. Our squirrels are a lot smaller, and sadly we can't hunt squirrels here. So yeah, they would all qualify as baying dog. And for me, baying dog is like a dog that barks at a game. For me, it doesn't matter if it's in a tree or if it's on the ground. Well, in America, you would probably say a Laika that's barking on a tree with a squirrel in it. That's a treeing dog or a dog that trees currently.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between when I think of baying versus other things, obviously treeing and baying, I can somewhat categorize in my mind, you know, because it's the same sense of cornering the game. You know what I mean? Just keeping it in one spot and vocalizing to keep it there. Whereas, like I was saying, because I know the Spitz types over there are your baying dogs, whereas from what I know, that a hound or a cur that we use over here, that a lot of people over here consider also baying dogs, over there aren't necessarily considered that. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I would say in general you're correct in saying that. Like what you would have most people here view is that, so a hound, we would have Finnish hounds, and we also have some plot hounds over here, mainly used for brown bear hunting. Like those type of hounds can bay a game, but their main goal in their hunting style isn't to make the game stop and making it bay. Like in general, a plot hound is as happy on a track, just howling after a bear or a boar. While if you have a good Spitz dog that is focused on baying, the dog will and should work to make the game stop. And that's the big difference. Like you can have a Wachtelhound that we use to drive the game bay on a wild boar, but the dog will not actively work in broad terms to make the game stop. They would be as happy to drive the game as to bay the game. While a good Laika or a Spitz dog will actively work to make the game be still and in the tree or on the ground bayed up. And then also like a baying dog should never bark on track. Like my Laikas will only bark when they have eye contact. Like if they don't see the game, they might not bark. Like at sometimes if they're sure the boar is hidden under a bush, like they might not actually see it, but they will know it's there. But like they should never bark when they're chasing after.
Yeah, something I picked up on my Laika is he actually doesn't even bark unless the game is actually facing him.
Yeah, that's a common feature, especially for the Laikas here as well. Like if they don't have eye contact with the game, they will not bark, and especially they might bark, but they won't bark with as high intensity. And I think that's something amazing with all the Laikas I have hunted with, and including my own, is that you can tell if you hunted enough with a dog, like what they're barking on. Like the intensity and
Right.
aggressivity in the bark will tell me if it's a squirrel or a badger or a moose or a wild boar. And that's something I think is very amazing and fun as a hunter, is that you can, just on how the dog barks, like, I'm not sure if it's how happy the dog is, but like you can definitely tell at most times what game they're actually baying.
Yeah, and I don't feel that's a very distinguished feature when it comes to hounds because, like you said, they're very happy to vocalize just on the track, and I think that's a cool point because in a notable difference between the hunting cultures, because over here, as you know, for wild boar, it's very common to use multiple hounds and cur dogs to run down and eventually bay a wild boar. You know what I mean? Even though this isn't the practice I've picked up on and continued, it's just it's the norm. Whereas over there, it'd be more of like a driven hunt, right? You'd set up shooters, use these dogs that are vocalizing to drive the boar or whatever game you're running to the shooters themselves.
Yeah, definitely. So, and that's one topic we're gonna dive into one of these following episodes, is the big difference in regulations and all that. Like here, we can never use more than 2 dogs on any game. The only game we can use 3 dogs on would be wolves, but that's a very regulated hunting style as well on the wolves. So like I would say 95% of our hunting is 1 dog, 1 game. You can if you hunt moose here, you might hunt 8,000 acres in one drive or on one property. And you might have 2, 3, 4 dogs loose at the same time, but you never want them to. If my dog is baying a moose, I never want another hunter's dog to show up and bay the same game. So like you never practice or push your dogs to join other dogs. You want to hunt solo with your dog, even though there's another dog a mile or 2 down the road that's within your hunting group. You don't merge your dogs together or try to push the same game with more than 1 dog. And that's also like, that's up here in, I would say, Sweden, Norway, and Finland. If you go with the same Lycas, Russian European Lycas or West Siberian Lycas, if you go the eastern side of Europe, they hunt in bigger packs as well. So like, it's amazing how much different style you can hunt with. And I think that's something that's very fun to talk about as well, and experience. And I don't think the Swedish way is the ultimate way. We definitely have things we could be more strict or more loose on, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's no perfect way, right? Everybody has their pros and cons to their styles.
Yeah, and that's something that's amazing for me as well. If you look at America, like each state has their own regulations, and as far as I have understood it, like how the norm to hunt is in Utah compared to Louisiana or Tennessee or Virginia. It's like,
yeah, completely different worlds.
yeah, and that's within the same country. So obviously here in Europe, where we have a lot of different countries with long different hunting cultures going back hundreds of years, it's going to be a big difference here as well. And that's something that I think is so amazing, that we can actually use the same breeds in different way of hunting, and it still works.
Yeah, that's something that I'm real excited about with this platform that we're using, because I know a wide array of hunters all over America, and I'm sure the same for you over there in Sweden. And just to be able to hear other people's stories and how they come about and their beliefs and cultures and practices, I think this is going to be an exciting thing, and also an educational thing. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think partly the very personal reason to trying to do this podcast is to learn from other guys and girls, for that matter. No gender discrimination here. at all. But like, I think that's something that's so amazing, and something that we're definitely gonna have to dive into. And if anyone is listening to this early on, well, welcome to me and Adam here talking hunting and hunting dogs in general. And if you have someone you really feel that we should talk to, like, hit us up on any of the social medias, and we will
absolutely,
and we will definitely reach out and try to educate ourselves, and hopefully anyone that's listening will pick up some fun stuff or unique stuff or cool stuff along the way as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be limited to dog or houndsman per se. Because at the same time, I know a lot of guys who do falconry. You know what I mean? Just anything outdoors, hunting wise, that people would be interested in hearing about. Send it our way. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Like, falconry is something that I'm very looking forward to learning more about and listening to when we line up something with that. So yeah, I think we should dive into a little bit, like, how young did you start hunting? Like, how did your a little, not a deep but a short glimpse into Adam's bringing up to being a hunting dog crazy person?
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. I did grow up into a hunting family, but between my cousins and I, none of us at a young age showed particular interest in hunting. All I did was walk around the neighborhood shooting game with pellet guns, squirrels, rabbit, whatever. But one practice that was always instilled in me was we had to eat whatever we shot. You know what I mean? But yeah, then out of nowhere, I kind of just got interested in my dog. My grandpa had beagles his whole life, which are used for rabbits down here. And just out of the blue, I was 12 years old. I hung out with the beagles a lot, and I finally asked my grandpa if I can go, and he was super excited to take me, man. And once I started listening to them hounds run, and then it just got into my blood. I became hopelessly obsessed, and from there, it just, I can go into a deeper dive in a later episode, but it just trickled onto other types of hunting, and just that teamwork between dog and man is super interesting to me. Just how we've done it since the beginning of time, and I don't particularly love much hunting without dogs. I'm interested in it, but that's what really made me become obsessed with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm 100% with it. Like, I do hunt a fair bit without dogs, but that's definitely not my driving force.
Yeah.
So
do you have a hunting family as well? You come from a hunting family?
No, so actually, none close to me within my family or like around my family is actually an active hunter. I grew up on a small farm, so I was close to nature and all that. And for me, like, I can't tell you what was the driving force, but like, I wanted to be outside and outdoors how much as I wanted to. So I knew that my neighbors a mile down the dirt road was hunting moose mainly. So 7-year-old me, I can't tell you why I was there, but I remember vividly how I'm sitting at their kitchen table, and I know the moose hunting season is coming up, and 7-year-old me is never still and always talking. So the old timers, at least when you're 7-year-olds, they felt like old timers. They were probably just 45 or 50 years old at that time. Right. They were like, yeah, well, Erik, you can never be still and never be silent. Like, if you're hunting moose, you have to be very quiet and not move for several hours, or you will not have a chance to see any mooses. Which then triggered me sitting still for what felt like 4 hours in my 7-year-old mind, until they got so worried, so they called my mom over to like check that if I got sad or if they hurt my feelings, so to say. And I basically responded, no, I'm practicing to be silent and sitting still so I can one day hunt with them. And well, since that moment I was invited to hunt with them, and when I was 8 and the following autumn in October when our moose season starts, I was actually with one of the guys when he shot a moose, and since that day I was like stuck and hooked on the hunting. But then it took a few more years until I was basically old enough to walk with the dog handler. So when I was 13 or 14, I started to only basically hunt with the dog handlers. And here in Sweden, you can't have your own rifle before you're 18, and you also need to have a hunting license. But I was basically only focusing on hunting with other hunters that had dogs. And since that moment, I got like stuck on the whole dog hunting part of it. And as you said, like listening to a dog bay mainly then for me, like bay a game or even drive a game, like that code work you do with a dog, it's such an amazing feeling. And at least for me, like I can have 4, 5, 6, 7 bad hunting days, but like as soon as that dog starts baying a game, like you're not tired, you're not worried that it's raining, and you're cold and you're miserable. You're just enjoying life for full.
Oh man, it's something. I feel like it's just innate. Like when you're out there, it feels like you're supposed to be out there. Something as humans we've done forever. So, which is interesting because, like I said, you didn't grow up with a hunting family, so I think it's just a feeling you get when you're out there. Like I'm supposed to be doing this. You know, this is how we're supposed to be getting our food.
Yeah, I think
there's something to that.
And for me, it's like it's as close to like a religious or a spiritual connection, I think. And for me, I think I'm as close to nature as possible when I'm hunting or when I'm fishing. Like there's something just being in the woods when the sun rises. Like even if you're out just hiking, which we do a fair bit as well. Like if you're hiking, you might be talking with your friend that you're hiking with, and you will not be as close to nature as you is when you're trying to be as dead silent. You're not trying to walk on a stick or a twig, and that's something that it's a deep connection for me, at least, that you get so close to animals and nature in general. It's just an amazing feeling, and if you then add on top of that your own dog, like yeah, don't get me wrong, I love when a friend's dog is doing good job as well. But when your own dog is performing, like those 300 days of the year when you're not hunting with a dog suddenly feels very, very worth it.
Yeah, you've put all that time behind them, the miles behind them. You've built this connection with them, right? And it's almost like being proud of a kid, really. You know, you watch them grow into. You have this vision of what they're gonna be, and hopefully be, because as you know, they don't all make it. So, yeah, it's extremely prideful. It's something we talk about, and between my hunting groups, we just, like you said, you enjoy hunting with other people's dogs, you have fun, but it's something about if you can't go out with your own dog, that's a little bit different, right? Unless you're experiencing something completely new, every time you want to go out, you'd like to be able to bring your own dog.
Oh yeah, that was something I not didn't struggle with, but like on my trip to USA, like it was just not. It didn't. There were no reason to really bring any of my own dogs over for that trip, at least. But like, it was amazing to listen to some baying like us in Tennessee and Virginia as well. That's a following episode we're gonna have to dive into when I was over hunting with some friends over there that we're hopefully gonna talk to as well. But like,
yeah,
the only thing that made that trip like a dream hunting trip for me, the last few percent was like my own dogs are like in the kennel or back home, being not miserable obviously, but like not getting to hunt.
Right.
And
right.
I get the same feeling like if you're out with a friend's dog, especially here is that the whole thing that we only use one dog. So like if I'm out with a friend's dog, then I'm not gonna let loose some of my dogs probably for that, or at least for that hunt.
That is currently something, as you know, I've kind of adopted I guess you would call it the Nordic way of hunting. You feel that's the proper way to say it?
Yeah, like I don't think we actually have a term for it here because that's just how we hunt. I don't think that many Swedish or Norwegian or Finnish dog hunters think about it, but like yeah, I think we, at least you and me here on this podcast, we can call it a Nordic style of hunting solo with a dog. And for me, it's I can see the benefit of starting your young dogs with a grown up or an older dog to like remove some of those days when you're just sitting on a log looking at your young dog chasing a mice or eating grass or whatever to quickly get them to learn what they're in the woods for. But
Right, right.
I think in general, if you have, for example, a bear dog, even if it's a hound or a Leica that we're mainly using here, or on wild boar, obviously, like at least me, I want my dogs to be able to do everything themselves. Like I don't want them to have to rely on another dog to help them do what they're supposed to do, so to say. And I think that's one of the bigger downside of the American way of using groups of dogs or packs of dogs is that it's actually enough, in my opinion. I'm sorry if I offend someone with this, but like if you have 2 or 3 good dogs, then why do you have 7 more dogs? Like,
Well, no, I think that's a good topic to bring up and a thing to say because, of course, by us talking about different hunting cultures, you're going to bring up some controversial things, right? I mean, and it's stuff that should be talked about, not necessarily debated, but which can be. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I tend to agree with you, and I'm actually here in America, and I've adopted that style just off of pure chance, you know. And that's what I was getting at right now because I have my hunting partner follows more of like a traditional style, you know. They're more okay with using a lot of dogs, and I'm trying to work on my one dog and trying to hunt that way just for dog safety reasons and also developmental reasons, right? Which you pointed out. So it's really hard for us to find that balance right now where we love to hunt together, but often I'm going my separate way and he's going his separate way on the same hunt, you know. So it's a tricky balance, but I guess it depends on what you want to achieve more.
oh yeah, definitely. And I think like the biggest downside to the Nordic way of doing it is simply that you're doing it alone. Like even if I'm out, as you're saying, with an amazing, good hunting partner or a close friend with his dog, like we're still gonna be, if not miles, at least a mile apart, and we will not get to share the experience, which is also an amazing thing with the American way, is that you get to share it with other people.
Yes, and that's why right now I'm kind of in the middle. If I do bring my dog, I'm doing it the quote unquote correct way in my mind and soloing him out and hunting him by himself. But also I want to be able to go with my buddies and go with their dogs and just enjoy that camaraderie, right? Just to have that balance. So,
Yeah,
and like you said, it's kind of funny because it's really illegal over there. Like you couldn't do it if you wanted to, right?
no, in theory you could do it with 2 dogs, but like the downside or like the whole thing is that you never want your dog to chase after another dog's barks, like and that's something that's very important then, because obviously if you would have 3 or 4 dogs connecting like that would chase another dog's bark, then that would actually be illegal over here. So like everyone is very strict on like you should never have a dog that chases after another dog's barks, even if it's baying or if it's driving the game. So that's
This really excites me to get in the mind of some of the other American hunters that I know of that I've explained some of this stuff, but for them to actually hear it, I'm very curious to know or hear their opinions on the matter. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's a very interesting topic to me.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be amazing. And so I think we also should point out like whatever we're talking about here is like our views, or whoever, if we have a guest on, like their views or their, like either me or Adam is a lawyer or anything like that, like, and whatever we talk about that might be controversial, I think it's gonna go both ways. Like when we're talking with someone that uses 10 hounds in America, that's gonna be a controversial way of hunting here in Sweden. And there's so many big differences. Like over here, we only have private ground. Like we have no public land. So like that was something that amazed me when I was over in America. Is like the amount. Like I know if you're like I hang out on a little different social media platforms with the American hunters, and like people feel that you don't have that much public land, and that might definitely be the case in some states. But like just the fact that you have it, it's so
Right.
amazing. Like
Right.
if I don't have a lease on the ground, I'm never gonna hunt there. Like there's no way around it. I can't like. So I flew over to Virginia and Tennessee, and I download an app on my phone. I buy a Blackbird tag, and then I use another app to make sure we're on public land, and then we just go hunt. Like
It's amazing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and I think as an American, that's you're so
We take it for granted.
Yeah, you
we
take
take it for granted.
definitely take it
sure.
for granted, and that's gonna be something else that's gonna be amazing to sit down and talk.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's something I do. Just by you mentioning it, you don't realize we're doing it, but we do. Because I mean, if I sit down and think about it, almost 90%, 80-90% of the spots that I'm hunting are public land. So yeah, it's something a lot of us need to be more conscious of, and just trying to be grateful for some of the things that we do have.
Yeah, and one thing I think I definitely want to mention here as a very important thing, and I think this goes across the whole world currently with hunting, is that I think we should never try to divide ourselves within the hunting community. Like numbers wise, we're definitely the lower ones when it comes to like hunting, and I know
Yes.
there's some big controversial things both in America and Europe now when it comes to hunting in general, but dog uses in general. And I think like we all should be aware of that and not try to. Me and you here, Adam, we're not here to like try to say that the American way with pack of hounds is wrong, or the Nordic Europe way of 1 or 2 dogs is wrong or better. But like, just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, everyone.
I think expanding knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the differences should ultimately we want to stick together and keep this thing going. But just sharing the knowledge. You can debate all you want as long as we know as hunters we're one thing. As houndsmen, we're all one thing with a common goal. And the bigger than all of our opinions is the fact that we need to stick together to keep doing what we love doing.
Yeah, and I think that's like that's the main point. I think like work together and band together as much as we can. When it comes to like, I think it's scary to the whole point is that, well, I'm never gonna hunt this way, so why should I care about their way of hunting or their being attacked right now? But like, for everything we lose or get, hopefully we don't lose, but like for everything that gets attacked, like if we don't band together and fight in every chance we get, even if it's so, for example, here in Sweden we can't hunt with a bow. So then a lot of Swedish hunters is 100% against hunting with a bow. Like currently, there is a movement trying to make it legal to hunt in Sweden with bows, because you can hunt with a bow now in Denmark, Norway, and Finland. But like, there's a big, I would say the majority of Swedish hunters is against it. And like, for me, that's a stupid way of looking at it. Like, even if you're never gonna use a bow yourself, like, be pro more hunting. And I think that's something we, both you and me, feel strongly about. Like, always be positive about more hunting, and don't give anyone like free food to use against hunters. Like,
yes,
both you and me, we use Leicas. At time, a Leica can be sharp. there's I definitely have some pictures or movies of my Lycas doing things they shouldn't really be doing. But like, I'm not gonna post that publicly on a social media platform, even though if I know all the hunters that will look at that video will understand that, like, so for like, if you just shot the badger, the dog might throw the badger up in the air or something like that. But like,
Right.
I'm not gonna
Right.
share that publicly in a video format on a social media platform, even though it might, some people might think it looks cool, or like, I think we all have to be aware of like the power of social media these days, and that we, as we just said, like, band together and work together, and any more ways of getting allowed to hunt is positive.
Yeah, yeah, I agree completely. That's definitely something I can also be a little smarter at. I just there are some areas where I can improve with that as well. Being more cognizant of what I'm posting, hunting wise, but not being super rebellious. Even though you have to be rebellious in some way.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's not about like, so for me, like, you can post a picture of a dead animal in a very respectful way, or you can post a picture of a dead animal in a unrespectful way towards the animal. Like, you have the whole thing here in a lot of the Europe countries where you would feed the animal like the Last Supper. You would put a twig or a branch in their mouth to like as their last meal, and stuff like that is very big here in Europe when it comes to like respecting the game.
Right, right. As a way of honoring the animal.
Yeah, as a way of honoring it, and I think that's something that speaks deeply with me. Is like, we're not gonna dive in too much to this, but like, I have enormous respect for all the animals I hunt. Like, you mentioned a part of the reason you got Lycas was that you think wolves are very beautiful and cool animals. And as a hunter, and I'm with you on that, like, I think wolves are an amazing animal. Can be controversial because it can definitely be dangerous for both our dogs, and they affect the animals we want to hunt and all that. But like, for me, like, it's controversial to say in some circles, but like, I love animals and I love nature. And even though I'm actively trying to kill animals when I'm hunting, but like, I spend more hours looking at a moose or a deer or a wild boar, just studying it and being amazed by the creature, or then I am actually like, just the shooting part of ending the life of an animal. It's such a small percentage for me. Like, some of the best days hunting in the woods, you don't even get to fire a shot, but it's still gonna be the one day you remember for years to come.
Yeah, I think that's common. I think it does sound odd because, like you said, we're actively hunting these animals, but I feel most hunters have a deep, or possibly an even deeper respect for these animals than most people who aren't spending that time in the woods and getting out in nature or doing any hunting at all. You know, we're not all barbaric and savages. You know,
No, definitely.
So it's definitely a message that I feel we can get across, especially having these other guests, and because, like you say, I know everyone you know. Most people I know, they all feel the exact same way. You know, nobody just kills just to kill, and we honor every part of the animal and, you know, make sure we can consume as much as we can.
Yeah, I'm with you that. Like, you grew up learning that anything you kill, you eat, and like, I'm with you on that as well. Like, wild game is such a enormous part of my and my family's diet, and that's something we're gonna try to talk about here in the future as well. But like, yeah. So for anyone that got this far, we hope you wanna follow us on this journey together, and hopefully we can find some interesting people to talk with. Me and Adam have a lot of ideas and people we wanna talk with, but reach out to us on any social media platforms that we're gonna try to host here shortly. and we try to talk with as many interesting people we think and can.
Yep. Like you said, reach out. You can find me on Facebook. I'm Adam Vu, and any questions or any ideas at all, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you made it this far, I sure appreciate you listening.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you got this far, then I think we can assume you're as crazy when it comes to hunting and dogs as me and Adam are.
Yeah.
And with that, I think as you welcomed everyone to the start of the episode, I'm gonna say thank you for listening, and I wish you have a good following day or a good night wherever you're listening from, and have an amazing time, and hopefully you will listen to our next episodes that's gonna come up shortly as well.